My colleague Francis Foster and I, about 2.5 years ago now, we just felt like the world was moving in a very strange direction, and I wouldn't have been able to name the problem at the time. I wouldn't have been able to say this is social justice or the far left or whatever it might be. I just felt like, whoa, hold on a second. Like 5 years ago, everything was fine, and now I get people telling me that because I'm a man, I'm inherently evil and oppressive. I was like, well, what? When? I didn't get the notification about now being oppressive and evil, right? Like that happened outside of my visual awareness. Or I'd go on Facebook and be having a conversation with somebody and say, well, actually, I don't think that fat positivity is a good thing because obesity is bad for your health. And then I'd get an email the next day saying, well, your booking cancellation with our comedy club is cancelled because you don't have the right opinions, right? And I'd be like, well, what? Well, how are these things connected? Like, you booked me because you know I'm funny and you like me. And then I expressed a medically factual statement on Facebook, and now you've decided to unbook me. How does that work? Like, I didn't know that I had to have the right opinion. I just thought my job was to entertain people, right? So all of that was happening, and we felt increasingly uneasy about it. And more broadly, and this is where, one of the big reasons that Francis and I started Triggernometry is his family are originally from Venezuela, or a part of his family are. I'm mostly from Russia, the Soviet Union. And what I see is that all of this stuff that you describe as your former ideology or your old
religion, in a way.
Right. Is, we can talk about different aspects of it, but at the core of it, it's an attempt to destroy Western civilization from within. It is an attempt to undermine and tear down all the founding principles of Western civilization that have made it the one place that is actually, quote unquote, progressive in the world. The place where gay people don't get thrown off buildings. The place where women actually have the right to drive a car and vote in elections and not be beaten up by the husband, and if that happens, for the husband to be prosecuted under the law, right? Russia, for example, just decriminalized a man beating his wife, right? It's no longer a crime, right? So, and you can go down the list in terms of freedom of expression. It's one of the unique places in the world where you can speak freely, right? And we enjoy all sorts of other freedoms and benefits of Western civilization being the way that it is. And what social justice, whatever this thing is doing, it's an attempt to pull down every single one of those pillars. Mm-hmm. The idea that we're all equal is now a racist concept. The idea that freedom of speech is a universal birthright of every human being, that is now problematic and something only the far right believe, apparently. This is what I keep being told. Yeah. And you go down and down the list: objectivity, rationality, all of the things that underpin every success of Western civilization, our scientific progress, the values of the Enlightenment. All of this is now white supremacy and racism and whatever, right? So what I see, and what Francis, I'm sure, saw, even though we had no language to describe it at the time, we just felt it, was something's wrong, and all the things that we value about this society, that we know is unique, right? Because we've experienced different things, they are under threat. Now, we got to start doing something about it. We can't just pretend it's not happening. So we started trying to have conversations with people who could talk as an expert about that, and other people too. And with doing that, we've got into all sorts of other areas and issues. But that was the kind of where the whole birthplace of the project is from.
I'm glad you're saying that, because it's something that I think sounds very hyperbolic. Like we've said, I think for a while, like, hey, a lot of people are very confused about what's going on, and the kind of through line, the one unifying feature you can tell from all this wokeism is if it is something that is supportive of the Enlightenment values in Western civilization, it is to be torn down. That's the way to think about this. And I think a lot of people just think that's very hyperbolic, but that's how this plays out. And I think fundamentally, that's where the philosophical roots of this lie.
But don't you think in the past, the past 2 months, since it's become so dominant culturally, this belief system, that I think that is starting to sound less hyperbolic to people now. They're starting to recognize.
I was about to make that point. I was about to make that
Go
point.
right ahead, sir.
No. Yeah. Please don't call me sir. I feel even older than.
Oh, no.
I am. But you're absolutely right, both of you. It doesn't feel hyperbolic anymore. I recorded an interview with a former Deputy Prime Minister of Australia about a year ago that they put out a month or two ago, in which I was talking about the same thing. And at the time, it sounded hyperbolic, but it doesn't sound hyperbolic now. Look at what's happening right now in terms of anti-racist training in schools and in workplaces. They're literally saying that being objective, being rational, that's evidence of white supremacy, right?
Yeah,
that's what they're saying. Yeah, in terms, they're not concealing it anymore. They're not pretending that it's something. They're saying it like that.
Yeah, I mean,
and individualism, which is crazy because But individualism is like that to me is the craziest thing that they're now openly attacking and trying to attack it by, like you said, calling it a mark of white supremacy. When it's like white supremacy is collectivist, just like the social justice ideology. It's not about individualism at all. But I think this works on people who don't think about what words mean.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think also you and I actually discussed it recently on Facebook. I think a lot of these people that are passively supportive or non-objecting to this stuff, they do it because if they were to think about it, they know where that would lead them. Mm-hmm. They know that they would end up with people like us, and they don't necessarily aspire to that. They don't aspire to being slandered and mislabeled and called names, etc. And so a lot of people prefer to just say nothing, mm-hmm. And just because they think it will go away. This is the naivety that I try to disenthrall people of, as someone, as I say, who comes from a society which has gone through different stages, right? The idea that all the good things that we now have will continue the way that they are when these crazy people tear down the whole system is preposterous. You know, the idea that you're going to have a cultural revolution and then everything that you like and value is going to stay the same is ridiculous. It's not going to happen. When these people tear down the founding principles of Western civilization, it's going to cease to be Western civilization. Right? Because if you build bridges based not on mathematics but on social justice, those bridges are going to fall down, right? And whatever else you talk about, that's what's going to happen. So if our society is underpinned by freedom and you destroy that, if our society is underpinned by science and rationality and objectivity and you destroy that, if our society is based on the idea that we're all individuals equally valuable and that it doesn't matter what your skin color is, as a principle, and if you tear that down and you say some animals are more equal than others, mm-hmm. right, then you end up in a different society. It's not going to be the same.
Well, right? And we know what those societies look like, right? Those societies have existed for all of history. The Enlightenment is new.
Right, absolutely. And so this is what I'm trying to wake people up to is you can't hide in a corner and expect things that won't last. They will find that corner where you are and they will come for you and they will take up the one thing, they will take the one thing away from you that you can't live without. Because as Kerry said right at the beginning, you will never be pure enough for these people. Ever. Right. Ever.